The night I aimed my rifle at a wounded deer and realized I couldn't pull the trigger was the same night a broken kid from next door walked into my life and changed everything. And before we go any further, if you haven't already, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if stories about unexpected connections move you, and drop your thoughts in the comment section because your support helps this channel grow and helps these stories reach the people who might need them most. My name is Philip. In the army, they called me Phil. I'm 72 years old and spent nearly all my adult life in the army. I used to believe my life was already over. Not ended, just finished. I was alive, breathing, waking up every morning, but the version of me that mattered, the one with purpose, with direction, with pride, that man was left behind on a stretch of desert halfway across the world. When I came home from the war, I came back with one leg that didn't work the way it should, and a head full of memories that never slept. The doctors called it a disability. I called it a constant reminder of everything I'd lost. My wife had tried at first. God knows she tried. But loving someone who flinches at fireworks and wakes up screaming in the middle of the night takes a toll. Eventually, she packed her things quietly, like she didn't want to startle me, and left a note that said she hoped I'd find peace. Peace never showed up. Instead, I found myself living alone in a small, weather-beaten house at the edge of a rural neighborhood, surrounded by trees and long silences. I rarely spoke to anyone. The neighbors knew me as the limping veteran who kept to himself, the man who never attended barbecues and never waved back. I was fine with that. People asked questions. Silence didn't. Then there was the kid next door. His name was Eli, though I didn't know it at first. All I knew was that he was trouble in human form. He may be 18 or 19, always skulking around in a hoodie. Always arguing with his mother, always blasting music that rattled my windows. I'd seen police cars at his house more than once. I told myself he was none of my business. I had enough ghosts of my own. Everything changed one cold morning just after sunrise. I was out on my porch, coffee in hand, when I heard a sound that didn't belong. It wasn't a car or a dog or the wind through the trees. It was a cry, sharp and panicked, cutting through the quiet. I recognized it instantly. A deer, hurt badly. Instinct took over. I grabbed my rifle, not because I wanted to hunt, but because years of hard choices had taught me that sometimes mercy looks like ending pain quickly. I followed the sound into the woods behind my house. That's when I saw her. A young doe, tangled in a rusted wire fence someone had abandoned years ago. One leg twisted at an unnatural angle, blood dark against her fur. Her eyes were wild with fear. I raised the rifle, my hands steady the way they'd been trained to be, but my chest tightened. I couldn't do it. I'd ended enough lives. Even for mercy, I was done. That's when I heard footsteps behind me and a voice that cracked with panic say, "Don't shoot her." I turned, startled, nearly losing my balance. It was the kid, Eli. He looked scared, breathless, like he'd run the whole way. His eyes weren't defiant like I'd seen before. They were pleading. I snapped at him to stay back, told him he didn't understand. He shot back that I didn't either. That this deer didn't deserve to die alone in the woods. We stood there staring at each other over the suffering animal, two broken people pretending we weren't. Then the deer cried out again, and something shifted. Eli dropped to his knees without thinking. He started talking to the deer, soft, gentle, like he wasn't afraid at all. He told me he'd seen her limping around for days, that she'd probably gotten caught trying to jump the fence. He asked me if we could help her. I laughed bitterly and told him that life doesn't work that way, that sometimes things don't get saved. He looked up at me, anger flashing across his face. "That's what everyone says," he snapped. "That's why no one tries. I don't know why that hit me so hard. Maybe because it sounded like something I'd told myself every day since coming home. Maybe because I saw too much of myself in his eyes. Against my better judgment, I lowered the rifle. We spent the next hour carefully cutting the wire away, my hands shaking not from fear, but from something like hope that scared me more than the gun ever had. We couldn't free her completely. Her leg was too badly injured, but we managed to move her to a small clearing near my shed, wrapped her in old blankets, and called a wildlife rescue center. They told us it would take hours to get someone out there. Until then, they said, keep her calm. So we stayed. Two people who had nothing in common except pain, sitting in the dirt beside a wounded deer. At first, we didn't talk much. Then Eli started talking about school. About how everyone expected him to fail. About how teachers looked at him like he was already a lost cause. He told me his dad had left years ago, that his mum worked double shifts and barely noticed if he came home at night. I surprised myself by listening, really listening. I told him a little about the war, about coming back different, about feeling invisible in a world that moved on without you. He nodded like he understood, and for the first time, I believed he might. The rescue team came and took the deer away, promising to do what they could. When they left, the clearing felt empty. Eli lingered, kicking at the dirt. He thanked me quietly. I shrugged it off, told him not to make a habit of trespassing. But as he walked away, I realized something unsettling. I didn't feel so alone anymore. Over the next few weeks, Eli kept coming by. Sometimes with updates he'd gotten from the rescue center. The deer, they said, might survive, though she'd never fully regain the use of her leg. Sometimes he came with questions about the military, about life. Sometimes he came just to sit in silence. The neighbors noticed. They started giving us looks. A troubled kid and a damaged veteran didn't make for comforting optics. I heard whispers, warnings. Someone even suggested I was encouraging his bad behavior. It made me angry, but it also made me protective in a way I hadn't felt in years. Eli started helping me around the house, fixing fences, chopping wood. In return, I taught him small things. How to repair an engine. How to steady his breathing when his anger threatened to take over. How to sit with pain instead of running from it. But healing isn't a straight line. One afternoon, I found police cars outside his house again. Eli had gotten into a fight at school. Suspended, maybe worse. When he came over later, his hands were shaking. He said everyone expected him to screw up, so maybe he should just live up to it. I lost my temper. Told him he was wasting his chances, that he didn't know how lucky he was. The look on his face still haunts me. He shouted that I didn't know anything about his life, that I could hide in my house and call it wisdom, but he had to survive out there every day. He stormed off, and for the first time since meeting him, the silence came back. Days passed. No Eli, no updates, no noise from next door except shouting. I told myself it was for the best, that I didn't need the complication. Then one evening, I got a call from the Wildlife Rescue Center. The deer had survived. She'd been moved to a sanctuary. They invited us to visit. I went to Eli's house and knocked. His mother answered, exhaustion etched into her face. She told me he'd been arrested for shoplifting, that he was spiraling, that she didn't know what to do anymore. I asked if I could see him. She hesitated, then gave me the details. I went to see him. Eli looked smaller, sitting there, shoulders slumped, bravado gone. Told him about the deer, about how she'd made it, about how she was alive because two people who didn't think they mattered decided to try anyway. He started crying, quietly, like he was ashamed of it. I told him I was sorry, that I shouldn't have yelled, that I'd spent too much of my life believing I was already broken beyond repair, The deer stood at a distance, scarred but alive. Over time, things changed. Eli stayed out of trouble. Not perfectly, but better. He finished school. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comment section. Your support helps this channel grow, and helps more stories like this reach people who need them. Sometimes, healing doesn't come from fixing what's broken, but from sitting beside it long enough to realize you are never as alone as you thought. Until next time, thanks for watching.